Welcome to Silicon Valley Business, a show focused on highlighting the innovation and heart of Silicon Valley. I am your host, Oscar Garcia, and today we have my friend and founder and Chief Connecting Officer of Bella Domain Media. Hi, Sandy. Welcome.
Hi, Oscar. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
No, absolutely. So, well, you know what? Let's start off with the first question here, and that is, tell us what your company does.
Well, my company works with small businesses, really SMBs. We also work with corporate executives and solo practitioners, right? Lawyers, CPAs, consultants. And what we do is we help them boost their brand, boost their visibility online mostly. But because of my networking and all of that content that I've produced, I also help them with their in-person networking, right? Because today we're networking online just as much as we still are in person. So there's all kinds of things, the way we go about doing that, but that's the gist of it, is really helping people up their profile and get more visible to generate more opportunities, whether it's clients or speaker engagements or media interviews, things like that.
I understand. And so how long have you been in business, and what inspired you to start your business?
Well, it's funny. I just found this out at the end of last year that and I don't know, I really wasn't tracking this because time flies, but my business has been around for 13 years now.
Wow, okay.
And I joke that, I have a teenager now, right? And it's got all the challenges that a teenager also has, right? In terms of unpredictable, kind of up and down. You're never sure what's going to happen, whatever. It's kind of chaotic, but it's growing, and that's a great thing because I think I kind of hit a tipping point. And word's really getting out about the LinkedIn trainings I do and all the workshops and things like that. So, and the way I came about it was, I got kind of tired, and I was living out here the first time, and that was back in '98, and I was working for a company that a lot of your audience is probably familiar with called TriNet. And that job offered me the opportunity to work with 100 startups at a time. I actually had another opportunity that I considered that was just a single startup, but there was no way I was going to pick something that was just one. The idea of working with all kinds of startups was really what appealed to me. But that job, was in '98, and then the bubble burst and we had lots of change, and I took that as an opportunity to pivot and go out on my own because I had made some great connections and built a really good network here, and I was working right away. I was doing retainer gigs or contracts, and from there my business just evolved in terms of coming up with some products and things that I could offer that were specific to different target markets, like I mentioned earlier. And there's been a few times where I've had an offer I couldn't refuse and gone corporate for another year or two, but I always come back to it, and I always kept the business going in the background, right? There were things I would do. And it was just that idea of the variety, right? I really like working with more than one problem to solve, more than one experience. That's what's great about doing what I do. It's a different day every day. It's not the same, it's not routine. I mean, just like your job probably is. Right. And I've just stuck with it and now really gotten very focused and passionate about growing it, right, and getting help in and things like that. So it's been a fun ride.
Right. Well, we first met last November at the LinkedIn Live event that the Chamber partnered with LinkedIn to host a half-day workshop. And I got to tell you, you did a phenomenal job presenting, and it wasn't an easy task because I believe you only had about 15 minutes or so.
Terrible. It was like 15 minutes, right?
Right, to cram so much information. Yeah. But when I heard you speak, I honestly was very impressed with how concise, articulate, and just how very simple your message, yet impactful they were. Right. And tell us about some of the, or maybe give us some examples of some common ways that you help some of these small businesses.
Yeah, well, some of the things I do are around LinkedIn, definitely, and that's why they picked me to be one of the people, if it all worked out, to come and do that, because I'm on the platform every day. I've been on since 2004. I'm on there every day, and I've had it where I have 2 monitors on my desk, and one is, you know, my email and CRM tools or whatever, and the other one's LinkedIn all day, every day. And because of that, and learning how to use it in a way that has to do with business development, right? That's my background as sales, marketing, and business development. So I don't approach it as a recruiter does, or as somebody who's wants to be a social media person does, right? An expert. I approach it from business generation, right? That's the goal. So the things I do are specific to helping people optimize their profile to attract the right opportunities, right? It's who wants to have to go chase everything, right? Let's set you up online so you're being found, right? And I'm not a huge SEO expert by any means, but it's not that complicated to figure out and understand what you need to do to have the right kind of profile. So I work with people on that part of their presence. If they have a business, we work on their company page as well. And then there's also so many other activities. As you know, you started blogging, and I loved your blog today, by the way. That was so great. So using that tool to raise your profile and establish thought leadership, that's a big part of what I'll encourage people to do, and show them how to do that and how to come up with blog topics, and just get them in that routine of doing that on a regular basis, because it expands your world immediately. I mean, I'm sure you've started noticing that, and your profile views are probably going up. And that's one way, you know, I'm about measurement. I have a background in market research, so I always want to have ways we can measure the effectiveness of what we're doing. And then participating in groups, that's huge. And then I also work with people to figure out how to integrate the other social media channels into what they're doing on LinkedIn and what they're doing on their own website. Because a lot of people, and I do this, I have a blog on my site, and I've had it for years and years, but I also put those blog posts on LinkedIn. So sometimes I am putting the same thing there. I might tweak it a little bit. It's always important to change your title, but a lot of times it's the same content, because I know my little website isn't getting that much traffic compared to LinkedIn. And it's a mistake a lot of people make, is that they just focus on their site and spend lots of money trying to get search engine keywords and all these things, when the reality is today, if you put that much effort or even half that effort into LinkedIn blogging, it's unbelievable what can happen. And the audience, right? 300, and I guess it is up to 340 million people now on the platform. So it's a huge opportunity. I always say there's like all this money left on the table on LinkedIn that people just don't understand. That's true. Because they have that impression, and it was true, that it's just an online resume.
Right.
And I look at every profile as a marketing piece, that it's your online marketing piece. And I have media on there, right? I have links to YouTube videos. I have downloads from my LinkedIn profile audit. And all those things are there, and they're there as an example for my clients to show them. These are all the things. That was part of what I did in the LinkedIn Live thing, was I really just showed, this is what I do. I get media interviews all the time. You know, people find me by just searching in there, and I always ask, being a good sales business development person, you always, how did you find out about me? Or and getting that story and having it confirmed over and over again that it was, oh, we found you on LinkedIn.
Right.
Yay. You know, and that's still, I'm not paying for an upgrade, and I kind of pride myself on not having to pay the upgrade to figure out how to get what I need out of it, right? There's all sorts of little things that you can do in the way you set yourself up and using settings. So
yeah, you do a great job. I constantly see you in my news feed pop up, and it's not just about showing up in someone's news feed, but really providing valuable information as well.
And that's the key, right? It's there's a 80-20 rule kind of with what you share in terms of content, right? 80% of the time, it needs to be valuable content, whether it's your own or things you've discovered, right? And you're curating content around a topic and sharing those. And then only 20% is your self-promotion. And it's not even overt. It's things like a workshop you might be having or a webcast you're going to do with another business associate. Those things, you can do some of it, but it can't be that. And we all see it.
Yes.
If there's people doing a constant stream.
You know, tell us, Sandy, what thought leadership is. I think a lot of our viewers maybe hear those two buzzwords, but a lot of them don't understand what that really means.
Well, thought leadership is being seen as an expert on a subject. right? We used to call them subject matter experts. Today we say thought leadership. But it's that idea of it's somebody that knows a topic pretty well and can speak to it and can teach others, right? I think that's part of the key, and that's part of what your blog post did today. It's really teaching other people what they need to do. And it's funny because when I read that, I was laughing because the first time I was in that situation, I came across an article that was in Fortune that talked about that. Excuse me. And it was about when you're the new boss. And it was that almost everything you wrote in terms of being able to don't react right away to things. Just wait and don't make quick decisions because you haven't earned that right to do that. And I had an awkward situation at that first role because they put off dealing with some situations that they really should have dealt with. So then it forced me to come in and sort of be the person who had to get the broom out and sweep out the place.
That's not a pleasant,
and that was not good. It did not set me up for success right away.
Right.
It was very challenging. I've got such a tickle.
No. Let's talk about your book. I'm at a networking event, Now What? And certainly a very top seller. So tell us a little about your book.
I tell people I wrote this book out of pain, right? I wrote this book because there was a time in our lives when we were up in Seattle for a while. And we were new. We only knew maybe one or two couples when we moved there. And we had to start over. And I'm not shy, right? I'm more of an extrovert and I don't have trouble going out and meeting new people. But as I was doing a lot of that, because the job I took when we first got there was business development. So it had me out there quite a bit. And I was just witnessing so many people that were struggling with it. And plus it was around 2008 then. And there were so many people out of work and so many more people out at these events that were just paralyzed in the corner, right? So, or talking to you and just doing the crazy stuff, shoving cards in your face and all those things that don't work. And I had some people say to me, "Oh, you think it's so easy?" Excuse me. And I was like, no, I don't. It's a skill you learn. I didn't come out that way, although some people would say I did. But you have to learn the skill and you have to practice it, just like anything, like leadership skills, management skills. You need to learn what works, understand what works, practice it. And then you get more confidence and you get more comfortable and people start to sense that, because we all know what it's like when you're around somebody who's nervous. It makes you a little nervous. And one of the things I tell people to get them out of their head about how they're feeling and their nervousness is to think about that these situations require some social etiquette, right? Being polite and etiquette is about making the other person comfortable. That's really like the definition of etiquette. So if you really focus on other people and the other person and you ask and you learn about them, you start to forget about yourself and you stop worrying about if you have your elevator pitch right or any of that. It just becomes a conversation. And so I was eager to take a shot at just getting it all into a book, and I worked with a publisher, down here in Sunnyvale, and the book came out, and I joke because I say, like, I was a reluctant author. Like, I wasn't like, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write this book. It was sort of like, it just needed to happen. And there's more to the story. But then I became this reluctant speaker. And not because I love public speaking, but in terms of the book, people just started inviting me to come and talk about it. And I was like, oh, okay. And, I had to figure that out. Like, what am I going to talk about? Okay, well, maybe I'll go through the chapters and we'll just give them whatever. Like, I just sort of figured it out. And then I just really enjoyed it, and there's something really great about being able to teach and teach on a larger scale. So I was doing webinars and, in-person things and workshops. Now I've done workshops that are a couple hours. But that just got me then, okay, I want to do more. I don't want to talk about networking all the time. And my LinkedIn business was starting to really pick up. So then I started doing more of those things. So the book, again, I'm so glad it's out there, and I still some days I have a wonderful surprise in my inbox and I see a new Amazon review that was from a stranger, right? Because a lot of times in the beginning, you ask your friends and people you've given the book to help review it. And most people have integrity. They're not going to write a good review if they don't mean it. But it's so nice when it's these surprises and it's somebody's, and sometimes I'll blog about that because it's the lift you need sometimes in your business, right? Everybody needs that, where all of a sudden something really good happens and you're like, okay, I am on the right track. I'm doing the right things. I'm helping people. And that was a big part of it, was just to try and help people that were suffering from, flop sweat at events or whatever it might be.
Well, and at the Chamber, we put together close to 70 events a year. And so that's a lot of events, a lot of opportunities for people to interact, to network, to socialize, to drum up business. And I do see a number of people that go about it the wrong way. So certainly your book is a great tool, great resource for anyone, even the seasoned networker as well.
That's what I've heard, because people say, God, I knew this, but I forgot it, right? There's certain things that we just sort of forget about over time because we're not practicing that often, or maybe our business is really growing and you don't need to be out there as much. So it's nice because it's a good reminder for some people. And I have all these little action things too. And I just want to mention the most recent blog post I put up on LinkedIn is about what not to do at a networking event. And that's partly pulled from one of my chapters in the book, because I think that's just as important, right? And I've had some really interesting comments on that blog post in terms of people saying, oh my God, I'm so glad you wrote this. But the one thing that I got comments on were these action items, right? Because one of the things I recommend to people is that if you're not that comfortable, find somebody that you know is good at it and invite them to an event to go with you, pay for their ticket, and watch them and shadow, be their wing person, and sort of just see and experience it. And don't worry so much about what you're doing, but focus on the experience you're seeing with that person, and it will really help you get that confidence and see. And because people that are good at it are so relaxed and right, it just sort of flows. And that's what most people need to understand, is it doesn't need to be a difficult conversation, right?
So Sandy, tell me about, because you've kind of touched a little bit, but tell me about some of the challenges that you experience being in business for yourself.
Well, I definitely have found, the lack of revenue predictability is a huge challenge. Most solopreneurs or small business owners will say that, right? Especially when you're building your business. That's always funky, and you get very creative about how you manage your cash flow and how you plan out, the next few months. It's probably something where you can't predict a year really well. You have to sort of go by quarters and look at it that way. So that has been one of the challenges, right? And I think the other big challenge was, I came from corporate where I was always managing people, and it's something I think early in your career, it's exciting and it's fun. And then you start doing it for a while and you realize how difficult it is and how much of your job is spent not really even doing anything, but just dealing with people and personalities and workflow and mistakes and people quitting. And all these things that come up that really make up your job. And that grew very tiresome to me, because I just didn't feel that I was, like, we were achieving things as a company, but it wasn't feeding my soul anymore, right? So when I went out on my own, I was kind of in that mode of, I don't want any employees, I don't want anybody, I don't want anybody to have to tell me they're sick today, right? I don't, that's the line. I don't want that to get that phone call. But that's probably handicapped me a bit, because I didn't want to bring in any help. And there was this great article, I think it was in Entrepreneur magazine last year, about, it was online, the myth of the successful one-person business, right? That it's, if you can't figure out how to scale what you're doing and bring in other people to help, you're never going to get past a certain point. It's just not possible. And that you have to recognize that you have to bring in others and train them and let them take pieces. And I'm doing that more now with virtual assistants and resources like that. I love to use TaskRabbit. I've used Fiverr. That's a tool that you can, get projects done through. I had somebody on Fiverr do my Christmas little thing that I had for the holidays. That was a digital but then I had to have my husband fix it because it wasn't, you know, you get what you pay for,
Sure.
$5, but it was a good start, right? And we kind of fixed it, and those sorts of things of what I've been using and getting by with, right? Is even for events, I might hire a TaskRabbit to come to the event. I have those pay it forward party networking events, and I might have somebody come and help with that and be there. So, but I'm determined now to find somebody local and really bring them in more behind the curtain, so to speak, right? And because that's the other challenge when you're doing this stuff is there's lots of competition, and you're always trying to figure out how to differentiate yourself, and it's hard to, like, I realized, and it was people giving me feedback, that the way I approach things and the way I do it is very different than somebody who's maybe was, you know, an insurance manager before, and now they're a social media expert, right? Whatever. And I have a different lens when I look at these activities and what they're really about and what they're for. So that is a secret, you know, it's like a proprietary process almost. And people say, oh, it's like your secret sauce.
Right.
And I realized, like, yeah, I guess it kind of is, that I approach it very differently. And I simplify it and I shorten it because it's not necessary. And I mean, I have my challenges too, going down the rabbit hole sometimes when you're, you know, like I read your post and I was looking at that, and then I don't know, like I did some other stuff this morning and I lost a half hour, right? And I was like, oh, Oscar. No, but because I posted it for you too, right? I reposted it, but I wanted to share it. I did on Google Plus. So anyway.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Well, no, it's really good. It's a great piece.
I appreciate it.
What's the title of it again?
How to be a successful CEO when you've never been a CEO.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate
great.
that.
Yeah.
I did notice. Now, what advice do you give a woman who is looking to be in business for themselves, or maybe a young female professional who is in the workforce and, again, is thinking about venturing on their own?
Yeah. Well, they each have, there's sort of a different answer for, right, the business owner versus the corporate, because the corporate person needs to be focused on building their personal brand, right, and establishing their voice in terms of the public forum that is LinkedIn, social media, and all of that, right? What do you write about? What do you talk about? Even commenting. We know that when people are commenting online, whether it's on Facebook posts or Google Plus or LinkedIn, what you do there is feeding your personal brand, right? People are making judgments about you based on what they say. And when you look at a post and you see somebody being really snarky or contrary to what the person's saying, and there's good debate, but then there's over the top, and sometimes we see that. Well, we're all seeing that, right? And it's like, wow, I don't want to work with that guy, right? And you don't forget the people that are making that sort of impression. You don't forget them, you know? And we should all have photos on LinkedIn, and everybody should, because it increases your search results, right? Like, so if somebody searches on chamber, executives, whatever, you're going to come up higher if you have a photo, right? But a lot of people don't, they think it's got something to do with privacy. And it's like, well, no, A, it's so people can recognize you when you have a meeting. B, it gives them a sense of who you are, right? And it helps your being found, right? All the profiles that don't have photos don't show up as high in search results even in Google. So it's silly to not have that. But anyway, I got off track there.
No, it's just advice to women entrepreneurs or women.
Right, and I was saying that there's a difference then. And for the business owner, you know, those people need to think not just about establishing this thought leadership position, but they need to think about how they're attracting and which people, right? My blog post from today that's on my site is about the social media channels that you like maybe aren't the ones where your target markets are, right? Maybe you love Facebook and you think it's awesome and you have a little company page there and you spend a lot of time there because you're spending money on ads and that. Well, if your target market really isn't there, why are you there, right? So we don't always approach it from our client's perspective or a prospective client's perspective.
Yes.
So you have to really get out of your own head and think about your customer. And I think that's a mistake that a lot of people make is that, and I'm guilty of it sometimes because there's something I really want to talk about or write about, and some of my audience may be like, whatever, but I'm, again, 80-20 rule, it's like inverse there. So 80% of the time I'm gonna just be on my thought leadership platform, but 20% of the time I'm gonna talk about things that I want to talk about, right? And sometimes we see that when Robin Williams passed away. There were a lot of posts from people that never, who would be talking about somebody who passed away, and just really emotional and really, how much impact he had. And you saw this content online about him. So that was an example where I think that's smart sometimes to show more of your humanity to people that are listening to you for business advice or whatever it might be.
Yeah, sure. So, well, Sandy, we're getting close here to wrapping up, but one last question. We got a minute left here, and tell me what the future holds for your company.
Well, as I said, I'm adding teams, so I've been doing a lot of interviewing right now so that I can do a few more things that are in the product realm, right, where I can package some of my learnings and content and have those be sold online through my website. So that puts me into e-commerce land, right? Like all of a sudden you're thinking about all these different things about your site and how it works so that people can buy these products. So that's exciting because it's fun to come up with those sort of things. And also I'm doing more courses for Learn Savvy, which is a new platform that I've gotten involved in. It's for women entrepreneurs. And it's more affordable courses that are in more bite-sized chunks, let's say, than paying $1,500 for like a full-day workshop somewhere, right? It's just getting the basic information you need about a subject. My first one was LinkedIn, surprise, surprise. But I'm going to be working on some of those courses. I'm doing a few more LinkedIn ones, talking about groups, other things, and then networking is going to be one. So that's going to be a big part of it.
Well, thank you, Sandy, for being on the show, and certainly wish you continued success. Thank you. And you're going to continue to do well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. My pleasure.